And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Battlefields of Olympis, with the cover it looks like this guy should be fighting for Sparta, is a game that kind of takes the idea of rock, paper, scissors and expands upon it in warfare. And this is not something really new. Lots of games have taken rock, paper, scissors, that mechanic where paper beats rock, rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, and applied it to warfare. But this game does it in a pretty interesting way. I think the game wasn't everything that I expected it to be. I was hoping maybe combat would be even more varied and interesting than it was, but it's definitely the kernel of a good game. There's definitely some really interesting ideas in here, and it flows fairly smoothly. It's a two-player game and works really well back and forth between two people. I would say that it's much more advanced version of War, but I don't want to disparage this by saying that it's even remotely close to the game of War, but that's kind of what it feels like. And at the same time, it's light enough that you could probably crack one of these games out in 20 minutes when you play it. So let's take a look at the mechanics and how it works. Battlefields of Olympis revolves around warrior cards, and there's 5 different types of warrior cards. Each warrior card, as you can see here, has a different icon in the corner. This is the heavy infantry icon, and this is what the heavy infantry can beat. He can defeat these 3 icons. He can defeat swordsmen, he can defeat spearmen, and he can defeat archers. Alright, pretty simple. Well, who can defeat heavy infantry? Well, easy. Cavalry crushes heavy infantry. Cavalry also crushes swordsmen. Swordsmen crushes only spearmen. Well, that doesn't seem very useful, but spearmen are the only people who can take out cavalry. And archers can take out everybody. Well, they can't take out the heavy infantry, so that's kind of a pain. And so it's a little bit of a complicated rock, paper, scissors, and that is what this game revolves around, using these warriors in combat. The game takes place around these 2 decks, the warrior deck and the fate deck. You start with some warrior cards in your hand, but on your turn you have 4 different things that you can do. One of the things that you can do is you can draw a fate card. Now, depending on what fate card you draw, different things might happen. If you draw a action card, and this elite card is an action card, that simply goes in your hand. You can only ever have 4 action cards in your hand. If when you draw a fate card it is a land card, it will go next to the pile in the land pile. These are the areas that you are fighting over. And if you happen to draw an Ares card, there's 6 of these in the deck, then that is placed over here. That's kind of like a time limit to see how long the game lasts, but also an Ares card, when it is drawn, forces you to battle that turn. So one of the things you can do is draw the fate deck. Another thing you can do is choose to fight over the land. Of course, Ares will give you no choice, but if there's no Ares, you can choose to fight over the land, or you can discard some warrior cards from your hand and draw the same number from the deck. Or you're also even allowed to discard action cards from your hand to draw warrior cards, not more fate cards. And if you ever have more than 4 warrior cards in your hand, and this can happen, for example, if you draw a land card that also gives you another warrior card, then these extra warrior cards, your choice, go in a reserve pile in front of you. Okay, these are your reserves, because you're only allowed to have 4 warrior cards in your hand at any one time. Battle's done very easily. One person plays a card. That's the winning card at this point in time, the swordsman. So now the other person has to play a card that either ties or beats it. So the other person plays the heavy infantry, so they're winning. So then I play cavalry, that beats heavy infantry. They play archers, that beats my cavalry. I play heavy infantry, that beats their archers. They play cavalry, that beats my heavy infantry. I play cavalry, that ties. So at this point in time the game is tied, and there's only 4 cards in my hand, so I'm out of cards, so they would either need to play a winning card, or they could pass and it would be a tie, in which case nobody would win. However, there are other cards, these action cards, that can be played during the course of the game. There's an important one is the flank. It converts a losing or a tying warrior card into a win. So if you're tied, you play flank and you can win even if you're losing. The same thing happens to the elite. A tie between 2 of your warrior cards into a win. A skirmish lets you exchange your top played warrior card for another from your hand. You can change it out. And then the interesting thing about these cards, including ambush and surround, are all these cards also can cancel each other. See, flank cancels flank, and it also defeats elite and skirmish. Elite cancels elite or defeats skirmish. And so there's almost another round of paper, rock, scissors going on. After the battle's over, whoever wins gets the land if someone wins, and the Ares card, if there was one involved, is discarded. Once the 6th Ares card is discarded from the deck, the game is over, and you count up your point for the land cards that you have. Each land card is worth the value on that land card. Like, for example, this woodland card here is worth 1 point. However, if you get several land cards that are the same type, and there's a icon up in the corner in case you missed that out, then you get a bonus 2 points. So if you have 3 cards of, for example, woodlands, you get 3 points. Each woodland is worth 1, plus 2 points for having a set, which would make 5 points total. So the game ends when you discard all 6 Ares cards, or if someone manages to get 16 points. And whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. The artwork in this game is fantastic. The whole idea of paper, rock, scissors is fun, because you go back and forth. They're having the reserve cards that once a battle's over, you can pick up your reserve and have your army ready to go right away. I like that idea also. I guess I was kind of hoping for maybe longer battles, because 4 cards is not a very impressive battle. I play one, you play one, I play one, you play one, I play one, you play one. I can't even play my 4th card. And sometimes battles are really quick. They play 1 card and I have no counter for that in my hand. And I understand that that keeps the game moving quickly. It just doesn't feel as epic, maybe a battle. It's just like, had the wrong card at the wrong time. Now once you start throwing in action cards, but I found that it's usually fun if you kind of give your opponent a few of the smaller lands and you hold off and wait for that really great land to come up. Unless, of course, that great land comes up the very first turn, then there's not a whole lot you can do about it. But still, for a light card game, this one's worth playing, certainly worth trying out. It brings out the theme very well, and you can imagine the armies clashing across the battlefield. But at the same time, it does have a very straightforward approach. It should be accessible by pretty much anybody. So while I don't think this is going to go down as my favorite 2-player war card game, there's lots I like better, it is certainly one of the more accessible ones and certainly worth your time checking out.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.